Hello friends, Stephen Bedall here. In this video, we're going to walk through your very first mix in Cubase, step by step. I'll cover some basic visual preferences for the mix console. I'll show you how to balance your track levels, use panning for space, shape your sound with EQ, and control dynamics with compression. We'll also set up group tracks, and I'll show you some powerful tools that we have in Cubase to help shape the sound of your stereo mix bus. Hopefully this will give you a really clear and simple roadmap to follow. Let's get right into it. Okay, first thing I'm going to do here is bring up the mix console. And right now we're looking at the mix console in the lower zone. And I'll often pull up the mix console in the lower zone to make quick adjustments. But if you have a lot of tracks in your session, it might be nicer to look at the mix console in a separate window. If we come up to this button here at the top right, we can open up this mixer in a separate window. So that's a bit nicer to look at. And in Cubase, it's really easy to set up visual preferences for your mix console. If we come up to the top right here, let's click this button here that says Set Up Window Layout. And there's a few things specifically that I'd like to see on my channel strip. For example, my sends, and also my channel strip effects. And these channel strip effects here are the exact same ones that you'll find in your channel settings window. So it's very convenient to be able to access these directly on your mix console. So if you remember in a previous tutorial, I set up two effects send tracks, specifically this hall, reverb, and studio delay. Now at the moment, these two tracks are kind of bundled in with all of our other tracks, and it might be nice to create a bit of separation, and we can easily do that by coming over here to the left zone at the very bottom. Let's click zones. And with these two effects tracks selected, I can move these both into the right zone. And now we conveniently have a little gap between these two effects tracks and the rest of our tracks. I'll do the exact same thing with our stereo out track. Again, coming over to the left, I'm going to move this into the right zone. Perfect. Okay, so first thing I'd like to do here is make a few simple volume adjustments. If we listen to this chorus, one thing that kind of stands out to me right away is that this lead vocal track here is a bit loud, and these two vocal harmony tracks are slightly buried underneath it. So that's an easy fix. I'm just going to turn this vocal lead down slightly with my fader. Okay, that sounds good, and I might make a volume adjustment for both of these vocal harmonies. So maybe I'll solo these three vocal tracks. If you want it so bad, I need to know it. Yeah, and maybe these two vocal harmonies can come up in volume just a little bit. So let me quickly show you the Q-Link function, because that's going to be really important here. Our Q-Link button is up here at the top. Let's click it. Now any adjustment that I make to either of these channels is linked. So if I push this vocal harmony up, they both go up. If you want it so bad, I need to know it. Okay, that sounds nice. Let's disable the Q-Link. And I should mention that because I use Q-Link all the time, I don't want to constantly have to come up to the top and click it on and off. So you can just hold down Shift Option or Shift Alt if you're on a PC, and that will temporarily engage it. There's a few tracks in this session that could use some panning adjustment. For example, these same two vocal harmony tracks. I can pan these slightly apart from each other to create a bit of stereo separation. Let's see how this sounds. If you want it so bad, I need to know it. I can't take no chances if you ain't gonna show it. That's perfect. Maybe we could do the same thing for some of these percussive tracks. I'll move the snaps channel to the right slightly, maybe this tambourine to the left. Perfect. And maybe I'll do the same thing for these electric keys and synths. I should also mention that both the electric keys and the synths have important stereo information that I'd like to preserve. So what I'll do is just right click on the balance panner, and I'll change these both to stereo combined panner. This will give me a lot more control over the left and right channel positions of each track. So again, I'll move these electric keys left and move these synths right. Let's see how this sounds. Okay, cool. There's a few simple EQ adjustments I'd like to make in this track. Let's take a listen to these rhythm guitars. Okay, so I'm going to make a slight adjustment here, and I'll click here up at the top of this channel strip to bring up my EQ. And I'll just quickly shape this guitar tone. So I'm just kind of generally brightening up the guitar sound, adding a bit of air, and dipping out some of these lows and mids. The one thing I love about working with this channel strip EQ is that you can just move your cursor off the EQ and it collapses on its own, which is really nice. I'll do something similar here for this drums track. Let's pull up the EQ. Just going to brighten these up a little. So we've covered some mix console basics here, as well as volume balancing, panning, and even some tone shaping with the EQ. What I'd like to show you now is how to bus multiple channels into a single group track. So I'm going to select all of our percussive tracks here. Together they sound like this. And we're going to bus these all into a group track. So with all of these selected, we can come down to the bottom of any of these tracks and right click. And from here, we'll select Add Group Track to Selected Tracks. And this will prompt you to name the group track. I'll call it Drums. And we want to make sure that this is stereo. Let's go ahead and add track. And there you go. We have our drums group track set up here. So I'd also like to separate this group track from the rest of our channel strips. So once more, I'll come over here to the left and move this drums group into our right zone. And also notice if we come over here to the left, we can now see that all of these percussive tracks are showing here up at the top that they are being bust into our drums group. So now that we have that all set up, I can control the volume of my drums group. I can make EQ adjustments to this group. I can insert effects onto this group track. And in fact, that's what I'm going to do right now, but I'm going to use the channel strip compressor. So let's click on this compressor module, and maybe I'll use the vintage compressor. I'll click on my little E icon to bring up the interface, and I'll adjust my input gain here. Don't want to compress it too much. Just enough to kind of glue everything together. And of course, I want to make sure that this drums group is sitting nicely volume-wise with everything else. So just brought the volume of that group down just slightly. It's sounding good. So we only took a very brief look at the built-in channel strip EQ. And for the most part, all of my basic tone shaping needs are met with the channel strip EQ. I use it all the time. There are occasions though where I do prefer to use a dynamic EQ, which can provide a lot more control and precision over the sound, and the ability to react to changes in the audio signal. So I'd like to show you Frequency 2. This is a powerful tool that's included with Cubase Pro. Let's pull up Frequency on this bass track. So I'm going to add this as an insert. Let's click on one of these empty slots, and I can quickly search for it. There it is, Frequency. Now I could do a whole video just about Frequency alone. It's a super powerful 8-band dynamic EQ. You can get incredibly surgical with it. And like all Steinberg plugins, it comes with its own set of useful presets. So I'm just going to click on this preset menu, and maybe we'll look for a bass preset here, something that could be a useful starting point. Let's try Bass Manager. I'll just come up to the top left here to bypass the effect so I can quickly compare with and without processing. That sounds really nice, actually. I might just make a slight adjustment here. And by the way, any edits that you make to any of your effects or anything that you do on the mix console, you can quickly undo it just by clicking Option or Alt Z. To redo it, Shift Option or Alt Z. And we also have an Edit History tab over here to the left. And here we can see every adjustment that I've made so far on this mix console. So if I need to jump all the way back to when I was adjusting the compressor on the drums group, I can easily just jump back to that or anywhere in my history. Super easy. Another one of my favorite effects is the Black Valve Compressor. And this is something that's included in Cubase Pro. And I'm going to insert the Black Valve Compressor on the stereo out channel. So this is a vintage style tube compressor effect that emulates the warmth and character of classic analog hardware. I also have a couple other effects on my stereo out channel here. We're using the Steinberg Imager to help widen the mix a little. And last on the chain is the limiter, which is going to help me bring this mix up to the right volume without peaking. And I think we've got a pretty solid mix going.
Keep me close and we can see this through. I like the way that your touch got me tripping like vertigo.
Okay, so that's the basics of mixing in Cubase. We covered some of the essentials here. And with a little help from Frequency, Black Valve, vocal chain, and some of the other tools included in Cubase Pro, you can shape your sound with even more precision. Start with these fundamentals, keep practicing, and you'll notice your mixes getting more and more polished each time. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to check out some of our other videos on this channel for deeper dives into mixing and production. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.